You know, in professional sports, teams are always making these huge gambles, betting hundreds of millions of dollars on a single player, hoping they're buying a championship. But what happens when that massive bet goes completely, catastrophically wrong? Today, we're going to break down the story of one of the biggest, most expensive free agent deals in baseball history and how it all came to a very quiet and very costly end. $245 million. Seriously, just take a second and let that number sink in. That is the unbelievable amount of money the Los Angeles Angels guaranteed to third baseman Anthony Rendon over 7 years. It was a deal that was supposed to change everything for the franchise. Yeah, but here's the thing. Instead of a championship parade, that massive investment bought them years of frustration, and it all ended with a quiet buyout. It's now considered one of the biggest free agent busts in recent memory. So today, we're going to dig into exactly how this whole thing just fell apart. All right, let's get right into it. And, we're actually going to start at the end of the story. This is the final chapter, how that 9-figure contract officially got closed out. So this wasn't just them cutting him loose. No, it was way more complicated, a big financial move. The Angels and Rendon agreed to a buyout of his last year on the deal. That, almost $38 million he was owed for 2026? Well, now they're going to pay that out over the next few years. And the key thing for you to understand is that this gives the team some financial breathing room right now, even though they still owe all the money. And yeah, for all intents and purposes, his time playing for the Angels is officially over.
So why was this buyout such a huge deal? To really get that, we have to rewind the clock back to December 2019. Let's take a look at why the Angels were willing to make such an enormous bet on this one player in the first place.
You have to remember, when the Angels signed this guy, he wasn't just good. He was an absolute monster, a superstar. He was coming off this incredible season, was a real MVP candidate, and, this is the most important part, he had just put the Washington Nationals on his back and carried them to a World Series championship. He was the guy, a proven winner, and the Angels paid a king's ransom for him to bring that exact same magic to Anaheim. Now this slide, wow, this tells you everything you need to know in just a few numbers. The promise versus the reality. Just look at the RBI column. In his last season in Washington, he drove in 126 runs, one season. Then, in his entire 6 years with the Angels, 125. He drove in one less run in 6 seasons than he did in one. That's just an unbelievable collapse. So the big question is, what happened? I mean, how does a guy at the absolute peak of his powers just vanish? Well, the answer really boils down to one single painful word: injuries. And this chart right here, it just perfectly lays out the biggest issue. That tiny little sliver, 25%, that's how often Rendon was actually on the field for the Angels. The other 75%, 3/4 of the time he was under contract, he was on the shelf. You just can't win when your $250 million guy is only playing 1 out of every 4 games. It's impossible. And look, it wasn't just one bad injury that he could recover from. No, it was this relentless, just brutal cycle of setbacks, one after another. First, a major hip thing in 21. Then 22 rolls around, boom, season-ending wrist surgery. Then a fractured shin in 23, a bad hamstring in 24, and then, the final nail in the coffin, another hip surgery that ended his 2025 season. He just never, ever had a chance to get going. In all that frustration, it wasn't just physical. It eventually spilled over. In 2023, things got so bad he was suspended for 4 games for getting into it with a fan. That's a pretty clear sign of just how much pressure and disappointment was building up over the years. Okay, so the contract is finally over. It's done. So let's talk about the aftermath. What kind of legacy does this whole mess leave behind? And maybe more importantly, what happens next for the team and the player at the center of it all? And look, the verdict from around the league, it's pretty brutal and it's unanimous. This isn't just fans being upset. We're talking about a consensus among the experts. They're calling it one of the most ill-fated deals of its era, among the least efficient investments in recent MLB memory. It's going to be a cautionary tale for front offices everywhere for a long, long time. But, for the Angels, there is a little bit of a silver lining here. The worst of the pain is over. This buyout gives them some much-needed cash flexibility right when they need it for the offseason. That deferred money opens the door to go after some free agents, maybe make a big trade, and finally find someone durable, someone productive to play third base. It's really their chance to just turn the page. But what about Anthony Rendon himself? He's 35 now, and with that long, long list of serious injuries, This buyout could honestly be the end of the road for his career in the big leagues. And that's just a really tough way for it to end for a guy who, not that long ago, was literally on top of the baseball world. And all of this leaves us with one final and really important question. In a sport where you almost have to hand out these huge, long-term deals to compete, how on earth do you avoid making the next $250 million mistake? It's the ultimate high-stakes gamble in sports. And as this whole Anthony Rendon saga proves, sometimes even the safest bet can blow up in your face, big time.